shock when I first heard that it was on the Colorado River, because we think of the Colorado River as the one that starts in Colorado and goes down and forms the border between Arizona and California. This Colorado River is entirely within Texas, and it drains into the Gulf of Mexico, and there are several dams on that river for various purposes, and so we stayed at the little town called Buchanan Dam, where we found a tiny house, Airbnb house, and the next day we went to the Something Hills United Methodist Church, where we rented a parking space out in the open where we had a good view. Unfortunately, it was cloudy.
Yeah.
But fortunately, there were enough breaks in the clouds that we could see the eclipse as it formed and as the shadow came across the sun. And we saw the full totality with a ring of light, or a ring of fire, that some people call it, around the sun. And we were so fortunate that that was the conditions that day, because the next morning we woke up to rain and a thunderstorm, and we drove back to Austin and stayed overnight because we couldn't get a plane back on the 9th, and flew back to LA on the 10th. So that was our trip, and it all turned out to be a wonderful trip. It came off as planned, and a beautiful experience.
Amazing. Was it very dark? Did the temperature drop and all of that?
It became darker.
Yeah.
It did not become dark like night. There must have been enough light coming in from outside the time of totality to make a little bit of light. I did not hear the birds chirp,
Right.
but yeah, it did become dark.
It's amazing. I watched the footage. I mean, here it was a beautiful, glorious day, but we were not in the path of totality, but you could still see. And if you did the pinhole trick, I saw some people with disco balls, and it was shining little crescent moons all over their rooms. It was super cool. So I watched the Weather Channel, and this is the Weather Channel Super Bowl, and it was amazing, and I've never seen nerds happier. I say this as a nerd, like so excited about what was going on. And they followed the temperature and everything. There was a meteorologist in Dallas who was reporting, and so they were really happy to have a break in the clouds. And it did get much darker. But of course, we're watching on television, so the camera's going to pick up light differently than our eyes would. It looked like as it moved north into Illinois and Cleveland, Ohio, got really beautiful views of the entire experience. My son Cooper was home for spring break this week, and he's 17, so he shuffled downstairs at like 11:30, and he happened to walk by the television as the moon locked in, I think when it was crossing in Cleveland, and he went, whoa. And I was like, all right, if you can get a 17-year-old who's only into sports to notice that this is a really remarkable event, we've done something. It was a really, I felt something. And I wasn't even watching it in the same sort of experience that you were. It's amazing when we are reminded how big the world is, how small we are, and yet how meaningful each and every one of us is to God. So I'm so grateful that you had a good and safe and positive experience, that the weather cooperated with everyone in the path of totality. It was a big concern. I'm sorry about the storms later, but it was a real wonderful thing to be able to observe that. So what a gift to be reminded of where we are in this whole big sphere. Other joys or concerns? Oh, so many. Everyone in blue. The blue line of people.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning on this beautiful California day.
Yes. It's green.
Hello. Yeah.
There we are.
I just want to ask for prayers for my son, my daughters, and for me. That's it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Oscar.
I have a joy. All my life I've been in love with animals, and I've always wanted to do something with them. And at this stage in my life, I've decided I'd like to work in sanctuaries. And I just got back last night from 9 days of training in animal communication, animal healing, and working with animals in sanctuaries.
Oh my
Visited
goodness.
3 different sanctuaries in Santa Clarita. Met gibbons, which I knew nothing about, which are so amazing. I
cool.
saw an armadillo play with a ball.
Really?
I know nothing about armadillos except they're roadkill in Texas.
Yeah.
I insulted another gal in the group who said, well, they're in Oklahoma too, and in Florida. I went, okay, but I only know about roadkill in Texas. I didn't know they played. And here's this armadillo pushing this ball and chasing it and jumping on it and rolling around, and it was so enchanting.
Yeah. Oh,
Anyway,
that's
I'm
wonderful.
still on a high from those 9 days. I'm going back in October to learn how to get my sadness out of the way so I can actually do some good. Because our emotions aren't any help to them.
Yeah.
You know, I need to be able to help. So I'm excited about this new chapter opening up.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I can't imagine anything more peaceful than working with animals, right? They're very, yes, obviously animals can be wild and untamed, but also just a source of peace. So I'm really grateful you get to surround yourself with this environment of peace and be able to be of help and good to them. That's wonderful. Thank you, Elaine. That's really great. Other joys? Concerns?
So, Skid Row action plan. So we were told in mid-December it was coming out second half of January. Then towards the end of January, we were told either February, early March at the latest. So what's now happening, so this is a total joy. I think it's a total joy. Got contacted by 3 different county people towards the end of last week saying it's definitely coming out the beginning of this week.
Oh.
and the reason was the main person named Dr. Galley needed to sign off, who heads up the Department of Health Services, which happened the end of last week. So now what I'm being told, or we're all being told, is it's just a formatting thing, you know, in order to send it out to, I guess, about 100 people. And then I was told if it doesn't come out by the end of Wednesday, start asking questions. So they all believe it's coming out in the next couple of days. And so, like, my feeling about it, I'm like picturing like a great band is coming in, and you can only buy general admission tickets. So everyone's pushing to get to the door when it opens up, and then you run like crazy to the front rows in order to get a good seat, which obviously I'm way too into strategic planning to feel that excited about it.
This tells us more about you than anything else, yeah. But next Sunday, hopefully, we will have some kind of report on what this
Yeah.
action plan looks like.
Yeah.
So, I see you, Byron.
A joy to be alive today, but a concern, and I just asked for prayer in dealing with my daughter's mother, who's she's kind of pulling the same thing that happened last summer again, and I'm going to speak to her on the phone today, but hopefully I'll get to have Mia with me this summer. But just, I guess, prayers for the right words to say without blowing up, something like that.
Yeah. Byron has more, yes.
The second part.
A footnote on my earlier report, one of the joys was the people we met on the trip.
Yeah.
The people who owned the little house we stayed in, got to meet the husband and the little daughter, about 6 months old.
Oh, wow.
And with the people we met at the church were all wonderful and friendly, and we talked to a group from Holland who were eclipse chasers, and they happened to be at the church watching the eclipse, and had a wonderful conversation with them. And other people, we did not meet big crowds. Everything was normal. We were told to bring cash because our cards might not work. Well, everything worked on schedule. No big problem. And that part, that's a footnote to that report. But I wanted to comment on Tom's report too, because I attended a Bar Association symposium this past Friday, and one of the topics was affordable housing and the difficulty of constructing affordable housing and PSH and all of that. One of the ladies who's in charge of building affordable housing, in charge of a company that builds affordable housing in South LA, said, the reason everything is so dysfunctional is because of the turnover in state agencies. The turnover is so extreme that there is no institutional memory in the state agencies. And when you make an application to somebody, it's probably the first time they've had that kind of an application, and they have two choices. Either stall it until somebody replaces them, or spend time to figure out what they're supposed to do about it. And so that turns out to be a big roadblock for affordable housing and the kind of thing that we want to do. And I suspect that's affecting the Skid Row plan and all of those plans also. That's a problem with our government right now.
Yeah. Thank you, Byron, for that context. It's one of the problems. Yeah, and we found that even with our process of the development work, we actually found a lot of open doors, but those open doors were going to start closing very quickly because of the institutional pathway that we had to take. If our city council person didn't have any sort of buy-in, or nobody wanted to approve what they were working on, just purely out of strategy, then even our project that is very well-meaning and very good and very positive and exactly what the city needs wouldn't get the support it needed. So we're going to start hyper-local and invite your prayers, especially in this election year, for all that's going on. Many of the reasons why people leave their jobs like this is because they don't receive adequate training or expectation. If you're presented with an application you've never seen before, you don't know what to do, it makes a lot of logical sense that you'll just sit on it for a while because you don't know. And lack of information doesn't mean that people are, wrong or unjust. It just means they haven't been trained well. So they're overwhelmed. They're understaffed. We don't have the sufficient resources that we really need to help the massive problem that the city sees, and that is a huge issue. So we will continue to pray for the people who are in those roles, that we do find those people who decide to dig in and dive in and do the work and take the time, and let us say out loud already, God bless them, because it's harder. It's harder to do that kind of work, especially if you're not getting a lot of support. And I know there are people, and Tom, you probably know some, and Byron, you may as well, who are digging in and diving deeper, and we'll be grateful for them. We have a very big prayer concern on our hearts and minds as we continue to watch with fear and with concern and with worry about the ongoing attacks that are happening in Gaza and in Israel and with Iran's strike yesterday. Again, I feel so ill-equipped to know how best to pray except for peace. That more fighting, more war, almost never works, right? There is no winner. There are always repercussions. There's always residual damage. So we'll continue to pray in the ways that we know how and know best, that there may be a pathway for peace, because 6 months of fighting is too many. Too many lives have been lost. Too many people are hungry. Too many children are starving. Too many families have been completely destroyed. And we pray, we pray, we pray. So friends, I invite you to join me in that prayer. Holy, gracious, and loving God, you created the universe, the multitudes, the galaxies, the heavens. You took nothing and formed it into something. You divided it into day and night, the sun from the moon, the stars from the sky.